Hey, what's up everybody? Hammerheart Metal Reviews here once again. Today we're doing another edition in my series where I'm going through my favorite albums from a specific subgenre of metal. I already did traditional heavy metal, my favorite 25 albums, and today we are going to be focusing on power metal. I'll be running through my favorite 25 power metal albums. So there are some bands that might kind of lie on the border in between traditional metal and power metal. If I already mentioned them in my traditional heavy metal video, I'm not going to be mentioning them again here today. So go check out that other video just in case you think I'm like missing some big name bands that you've heard me talk about before. They'll probably be in that video, if not in this one. Once again, I am limiting this to just one album per band, because I mean, if I was just talking about my favorite 25 power metal albums in general, I'm sure my top 10 would have at least 4 or 5 Blind Guardian albums. So not really much point to do that if I'm just going to mention only a few bands. I want to focus on at least like a separate album from each band. So I'll be talking about 25 different bands here and what I consider to be the best album from each of those bands. So yeah, that's pretty much the spiel here, and I'll just get right into this. So kicking off this list, coming in 25th place is Hybria, or Hybria, I'm not actually sure on the pronunciation, with their album Defying the Rules. This album was from 2004. These guys are from Brazil, if you haven't heard them before. Their vocalist, Yuri Swanson, or Sanson, I'm butchering his name already, but yeah, he's got a really great voice, and the guitar riffs on here are just really awesome. Favorite song, probably Steel Lord on Wheels. Just really solid stuff. I mean, I'm going to be using a lot of the same adjectives as I go through this list. Pretty much everything on here is going to be full of great guitarists, great vocalists, just everything you want in power metal. And yeah, if you haven't heard this album before, definitely go check it out. Up next at number 24, I'm going with Demons and Wizards and their self-titled debut album, which is from 1999. So, of course, this was the kind of super group. Features John Schaefer from Iced Earth on guitar and Hansi Kirsch from Blind Guardian on vocals. Hansi Kirsch is probably my favorite vocalist of all time. So, of course, any project with him, I am probably going to lean favorably towards. I don't think this is quite as good as Blind Guardian or Iced Earth for that matter. But it's an interesting combination of musicians here, and they write some really good stuff. Like Fiddler on the Green, absolutely the best song on this album, the best song they've ever done. That's up there with like some of the best tracks ever. Heaven Denies, a really solid one. Like all in all, this is still a pretty enjoyable album. Maybe it's not as consistent as ones that I'm going to get to higher up in this list, but nonetheless, it was worthy of making this list. Up next at number 23, I'm going with Dark Moor and their album The Hall of the Olden Dreams from the year 2000. So this band is from Spain. It's female fronted and her voice is very awesome, suits this music so well. I had a really tough choice which album to put here. I put this one, but the subsequent album after this is also really solid. Why am I just drawing a blank? I should have written that down. I can't even remember what the name of that album is, but they're both really solid. I know the vocalist was only with this band for the first few albums, then they brought in someone else after that, but I really like the early era of this band. And favorite songs on this album, Silver Lake, The Sound of the Blade, just really solid stuff. I think more of an underrated selection here, so go check it out if you have not heard it. Speaking of more underrated ones, coming in at number 22, I'm going with Insania and their album Fantasy, A New Dimension. So these guys are from Sweden. This album is from 2003, and this is just super catchy power metal. Not really reinventing the wheel or necessarily doing anything too unique, but it's just really solid and catchy songs that are going to stick in your head. Face the King and Fantasy, those are probably my 2 favorite tracks on the album. If you haven't heard these guys before, go check out those 2 songs, and then go check out this whole album. It's just catchy, fun power metal. It's going to stick in your head, and that's what you want. Up next at number 21, I'm going with Twilight Force and the album Tales of Ancient Prophecies. This one's more of a recent one from 2014. These guys are also from Sweden. Best song on here is probably the opener, The Power of the Ancient Force. Just really solid stuff. Once again, a band that's not really doing anything new or unique, especially with an album from 2014, but it's very well executed. The musicianship's really on point. The vocals are pretty solid. All in all, just a very enjoyable power metal album. That's why it's in here at number 21. Up next at number 20, I'm actually going with an album that just came out this year from 2022, Paladin, with their album With the Magic of Windfire Steel. So these guys are from Iceland, which I don't know too many bands from Iceland in the power metal vein for sure. I know a few black metal bands from Iceland. But this one, yeah, I'm putting it on here all the way up at number 20 because it's just blown me away this year. Definitely one of the better power metal releases from this year, probably from the last few years. And so it's making this list. Like, this top 25 isn't necessarily what I think are like the best 25 power metal albums of all time or the most unique. They're just the ones that I'm considering my favorites at this given time. So that's why this is in here at number 20. There's going to be some big name bands that I'm not even mentioning on this list. And it's not to say that Paladin is a better band than some of these bands that I'm not mentioning. But it's just right now I'm listening to this album a lot. It's one of my favorites in the recent times for power metal, so that's why I'm putting it on here. Really solid stuff if you haven't checked it out yet. Best songs on here, Craven the Hunter, Creatures of the Night. Just really solid vocals. The album art is fucking awesome too. Exactly what you want in power metal. So go check them out if you have not. Up next at number 19, I'm going with Gloryhammer and their debut album, Tales from the Kingdom of Fife. So this is from 2013. These guys are from Scotland. The keyboardist is also in Ailstorm, but this is not like pirate metal. This is just very like space-themed Scottish power metal. It's very like funny and definitely cheesy, but this first album kicked a lot of ass. It's super catchy. Their subsequent releases I don't think were quite on par with the debut, but this one is still just a really solid power metal album. The Unicorn Invasion of Dundee, like obviously you can't take something like that seriously, but it's got great riffs. The vocals are awesome. Amulet of Justice is another really solid song. Like all in all, if you just write these guys off, there's still some definite solid power metal in there. I strongly recommend that you go check out at least this first album by them. Up next at number 18, I'm going with Angra and their album Temple of Shadows. This is from 2004. These guys are also from Brazil, and the musicianship on this album is just top-notch. Absolutely top-shelf musicianship. The guitar, riffs, and solos, just insane. Favorite track, if I had to pick one, would probably be Spread Your Fire. But all in all, just a really solid album by a solid band. So definitely go check out Temple of Shadows if you have not heard it. Up next at number 17, I am going with Stratovarius and their album Visions from 1997. These guys, of course, Finnish legends in the power metal genre. They've got a ton of albums. I could have picked a lot of different ones in here, but I've always kind of leaned towards Visions as being my favorite. I haven't done a Stratovarius ranking yet. Maybe I will at some point. I know it's a big one to tackle. But yeah, this one is probably the album I go back to the most. Just got some big hits on here like Black Diamond, The Kiss of Judas. Really solid power metal, and it's got that Finnish power metal sound, and really solid. That's why it's in here. Up next at number 16, I am going with Kamelot and their album Karma from 2001. This one was a tough choice. Do I pick Karma or do I pick their album Epica? They're so neck and neck for me as which one I prefer. I ended up going with Karma. Just for today, I think it's edging it out Epica for me, like by a hair. But yeah, Karma is just really solid album. Forever, Wings of Despair, the Elizabeth trilogy to close off the album. Just great riffs, great vocals. Exactly what I want in a power metal album. I don't love Kamelot's entire career. They're definitely got a few albums that I don't think are as strong as others, but there was this mid-era here where they released a string of really solid albums all in a row, and this one is probably my favorite, so that's why it is in here at number 16. Now let's get into the top 15, even better stuff. So coming in at number 15, I'm going with Orden Ogan and their album To the End. So this is from 2012. These guys are from Germany. You're going to start seeing a lot of German power metal bands as they get through this top 15. Germany is pretty much the home of power metal, the original country, which I'll talk about more later. But yeah, this album, just absolutely solid stuff. Catchy ass choruses. Like, these guys know how to write a hook and write a catchy chorus. Favorite songs is probably the title track, To the End. The Things We Believe In is solid too. Just all front to back, this is a super enjoyable album. And that's why I've got it in at number 15. Up next at number 14, I'm going with Riot and their album Thundersteel, which is from 1988. So these guys are from the USA. They've been around a really long time. Started out just more in like the hard rock vein. Definitely went through a few different phases, different vocalists. But by the time Thundersteel came out, they really changed gears completely. This is just a pure speed metal / power metal attack. Arguably, could I have put this on like the traditional heavy metal list? Yeah, probably. It's kind of right on that threshold of in between genres, but it's so hard to tag something in like one subgenre when it kind of straddles the line in between. You don't need to label everything. It's just a good album, but I feel like there's enough power here to call this a power metal album. If you haven't heard this before, like, don't necessarily go listen to every album by Riot. You might be thrown off by listening to their early stuff that sounds nothing like this, but Thundersteel absolutely kicks ass. The vocals are amazing. The guitar riffs are nuts. This sounds like Judas Priest Painkiller era, but like dialed up even faster and more aggressive. And this came out before Painkiller. I actually feel like Priest might have heard this and decided to go that direction for Painkiller. And yeah, this album just kicks ass. Title track Thundersteel, absolutely amazing. Fight or Fall, really the whole thing front to back, absolutely amazing US power metal album. That's why it is on this list. Up next at number 13, I'm going with some Canadian content. I believe it's the only Canadian band I have on here. Yeah, Unleash the Archers with their album Apex from 2017. So this is another one where it was tough for me to pick which album I would put on here, but I feel like Apex may be their Apex. If you haven't heard Unleash the Archers before, they're also a female-fronted band. Brittany Slays has such a powerful voice, bring in such great melodies. They also bring in a little bit of mellow death screaming as well, but I much prefer their stuff where it's just her singing, and just because her voice really carries these songs, and it's really solid. Great guitar riffs too. For this list, I tried to stay away from stuff that was like more in the mellow death mixed with power metal. That'll be for a different video. This might be the one exception where they're actually bringing in some harsher vocals, but for the most part, I still feel like Unleash the Archers is a pure power metal band. They just bring in a little bit of those other influences here and there. But favorite songs on here, Awakening is one of their best songs they've ever done. The Matriarch, just really, really solid stuff. Love to feature some Canadian content. I've seen this band live numerous times. They're always awesome. So yeah, definitely deserves a listen if you have not heard them before. Up next at number 12, let's go back to Germany, maybe with a more underrated one, Eternties End, with their album Embers of War, which just came out last year, 2021. So this one, actually, I only was introduced to this band last year, and this ended up being in my top 10 from 2021. Not just for power metal, but for all metal. This album absolutely blew me away. I had to go back and listen to their other two albums, which are both really solid as well, but I think Embers of War is their peak so far. I mean, they're still a relatively new band, only have 3 albums, but just an all-star lineup. I talked about Yuri Sanson before from Hybria. He's doing vocals for this band. They've got Christian Wenzer on guitar from Obscura, so bringing kind of like the technical death metal style of playing to this, but it's not technical death metal at all. It's just, you obviously know he's got the chops to play like absolutely insane riffs. Hannes Grossman is the drummer, like just an all-star lineup, but you wouldn't necessarily associate with being a power metal band, but this just absolutely slays. The guitar on here is nuts, catchy-ass choruses. Favorite songs, Bane of the Black Sword, the title track Embers of War's got like some nice Blind Guardian feels going on. The Hounds of Tindalos is super catchy. So yeah, this one I feel is super underrated. If you haven't heard Eternity's End, please do yourself a favor and go listen to Embers of War, because it will blow your socks off. Up next at number 11, I am going with Pharaoh and their album Be Gone from 2008. So this is some like US power metal. It's got a little bit more of a gritty edge, where a lot of these on the list may be like more happy sounding. This is more in like the Iced Earth style vein of power metal. Their vocalist for Pharaoh sang on Control Denied's album, which of course was Chuck Schuldner's band after he left Death. So if you enjoyed Control Denied, definitely go check out Pharaoh, because it's the same vocalist that he kicks ass, and just really great guitar melodies here. This was another hard one to pick which album, but I feel like this one is my favorite by them. Favorite tracks, Speak to Me, Red Honor is super catchy. Just all in all, really solid band. Every album they've done is awesome. But I went with Be Gone, so definitely go listen to it. Now into the top 10. My top 10 favorite power metal albums, at least with each being by one separate band. Anyways, like I said before, otherwise I would have the same bands repeating here. But yeah, kicking this off in number 10, I'm going with probably another underrated one, Thornbridge, with their album Theatrical Masterpiece from 2019. So these guys are also from Germany. Once again, there's a theme here. And yeah, this is a band that doesn't necessarily do anything unique either. They're just wearing their influences on their sleeve. You can hear bits of Helloween, you can hear Orden, Ogan, you can hear Blind Guardian. All these influences just come together. But they only have 2 albums, and they're both just so well executed and catchy ass power metal songs. Great guitar, vocals are awesome. Favorite songs on here, the title track, Theatrical Masterpiece, is great. Revelation is pure Blind Guardian worship, but in the best way. Like it's just awesome. Trace of Destruction, another solid song. All in all, this is an absolutely killer power metal album. One of my favorites that have been released in the last 5 years. So definitely go give Thornbridge a listen if you have not heard them before. Up next at number 9, I'm going with Heavenly and their album Dust to Dust from 2004. So these guys are from France. And yeah, just absolutely epic stuff here. This is a concept album all about like a vampire and just really awesome stuff. There's a lot of great piano parts in here. The guitar riffs are awesome. The vocalist hits such high notes but brings in such melody as well. There's probably like a Queen influence, but yeah, really awesome songs on here. Keepers of the Earth, Fight for Deliverance is absolutely amazing. Kingdom Come is probably my favorite song on the album. Just absolutely epic power metal. Love this album to death. And yeah, that's why it's in the top 10 in at number 9. Up next at number 8, let's go back to Sweden with Lost Horizon and their album A Flame to the Ground Beneath. This one is from 2003. So these guys only put out 2 albums and then disbanded. They're probably most well known for their absolutely awesome vocalist, Daniel Hyman, or Heyman. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. He has now gone on to be in Warrior Path, which is another great power metal band. But yeah, these 2 Lost Horizon albums are absolutely 2 of the best power metal albums from like the last 20 years. And I feel like this one, A Flame to the Ground Beneath, edges out the debut by a hair. But yeah, if you just want to hear some absolutely stellar vocals, please go listen to these guys. Favorite tracks on here, Lost in the Depths of Me, Highlander, the one, like that song is going to hit so many like, don't listen to me do it. I'm not a good power metal singer. But yeah, absolutely epic vocals here. And like the rest of the band is great too. I don't want to take anything away, but the highlight of this band is their vocalist, hands down, so definitely go check them out. Up next at number 7, let's go back to Finland and one of my favorites, Sonata Arctica, with their album Silence from 2001. So yeah, Sonata Arctica started out as a pure power metal band. Over time, they became more of just like a progressive metal band. My favorite era of them is when they were just a pure power metal band. This is their 2nd album. I feel like it is their best. I could have put Ecliptica here, that their debut. Those ones to me are like very neck and neck, but I went with Silence. I think it edges it out in quality of songs a little bit. My favorites on here, San Sebastian, Wolf and Raven is possibly my favorite Sonata Arctica song. Web Allergy is great. So if you haven't heard these guys before, they really combine a lot of keyboard melodies with the guitar. They'll even like mimic each other. Just pure like Finnish style of that music. And it's just a really awesome, well-written album. Maybe happy sounding. People might knock it for like being a little bit too cheery and poppy, but I love this kind of stuff, especially in power metal. Puts a smile on your face. Just absolutely love this album. And yeah, that's why it's in at number 7. Up next at number 6, I'm going with Iced Earth and their 2nd album, Night of the Storm Rider, which is from 1991. One of the older ones on this list. So these guys, of course, are from USA. John Schaefer is their guitarist. Say what you will about him these days, but nonetheless, their early works are absolutely amazing. And this is probably my favorite album by them. I definitely love their early era the most out of every era in the band. Just really solid stuff here. There's definitely a big thrash influence, traditional metal mixed in with the power metal, but they get lumped in more as a power metal band, so that's why I put them on this list. But this whole album front to back absolutely stand out. It's just amazing. Traveling Stygian, one of their best songs ever. Pure Evil, The Path I Choose, Angel's Holocaust, Storm Rider. Like, name this whole fucking album. They're all just awesome songs. This could have even been higher than number 6, but I mean, these next top 5 are possibly even better. So let's find out what those are. Into the top 5 now. Just cracking the list at number 5, I'm going with Avantasia and their debut album, The Metal Opera. So this, of course, is Tobias Sammet's project. He, of course, being the guitarist and vocalist from Edguy. I didn't end up including any Edguy on this list. I do like them, but I just feel like Avantasia, at least the Metal Opera, definitely blows away any of the Edguy albums. There's still a couple pretty solid Edguy albums, but let's talk about the Metal Opera here. He brings in so many different guest vocalists to like truly make it a metal opera. These songs are just so well composed, and you've got guest appearances from like Michael Kiske from Helloween, Kai Hansen from Helloween, and Gamma Ray. There's so many other vocalists here. Like every album he brings in different guys. But this album is definitely their peak. Just came out of the gates firing. I think originally it was just supposed to be a one-off album, but of course now it's gone on to tons of different albums. Metal Opera Part 2 came out a couple years later. Some of the quality of their later albums definitely does not match this one. This is by far their best in my opinion, but best songs on here: Farewell, Reach Out for the Light, The Tower is absolutely great. Just all in all, super enjoyable, epic power metal album. Definitely deserved a spot in my top 5. Up next at number 4, I am going with Gamma Ray and their album Land of the Free from 1995. So of course Gamma Ray was started when Kai Hansen left Helloween. The first few Gamma Ray albums, Kai Hansen didn't do vocals. He was just doing guitar and songwriting. They had Ralph Sheepers doing vocals on those albums, who then went on to Primal Fear, another great power metal band. But yeah, Land of the Free was the first album where Kai Hansen came back and started doing lead vocals again, and I think that they're all the better for it. Nothing against Ralph Sheepers, he's a great vocalist, but these Gamma Ray songs really need Kai Hansen's voice. He just suits it so well. His sense of melody is so fucking great. And this is probably their peak, in my opinion. They have a string of really solid albums, but this is always the one that I go to the most as being my favorite. Just every song on here pretty much hits. Rebellion in Dreamland, Man on a Mission, Gods of Deliverance, probably my favorite Gamma Ray song. Farewell features guest vocals from Hansi Kirsch. Just all in all, super solid power metal album. So catchy, so fun, just awesome. Yeah, that's what's in number 4. Up next at number 3, one of the all-time classics, pretty much the originators of power metal, Helloween, with Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 1 from 1987. So this is the oldest album on this list, of course, because they pretty much started power metal. Of course, they're from Germany. I was just talking about Kai Hansen. At this point, he was the lead guitarist in Helloween as well. And to me, yeah, this is their best album. I love Walls of Jericho while Kai Hansen was still singing. That was more of a speed metal album. But then they brought in Michael Kiske to do vocals and changed their style up a little bit. And that pretty much became European power metal. And the songs on here, just absolutely epic. Helloween, one of the best power metal songs of all goddamn time. Just a long epic, it's Helloween, That's just fucking amazing. A Tale That Wasn't Right is a great ballad. A Little Time, just solid album. Easy addition for my top 5. And yeah, let's find out what I've ranked above it. 2 more albums to go. So coming in second, I am going with Rhapsody, and I'm going with their debut album, Legendary Tales from 1997. This was another one where it was really hard to pick which album I would talk about because they have so many fucking good albums. But I went with Legendary Tales because it kind of just set the template for what you could do with this kind of like symphonic power metal, bringing in so many keyboards and over-the-top orchestrations, but no one does it better than Rhapsody. The musicianship is so on point here. Like Luca Trilli's guitar playing is amazing. Fabio Leone's operatic vocals just knock it out of the park. Absolutely a stellar album. If you put a different album by them on here, I wouldn't say nothing about that. They have so many solid albums. But for me, I went with Legendary Tales just because the hits on here, well, hits, are they hits? They're hits to me because I fucking love them. But yeah, just the songs on here are just classics. Rage of the Winter, Flames of Revenge, Land of Immortals. Doesn't get much better than that. Those are 3 of my favorite Rhapsody songs ever. They're all on the same album. That's why it's going to be in here as my favorite Rhapsody album, and that's why it's in at number 2. So now into number 1, let's find out what my favorite power metal album of all time is. Of course I'm going to be talking about Blind Guardian. If you've watched this channel before, you know my love for them is immense. So of course Blind Guardian's coming in at number 1. But which album am I going to put? This is the real toss-up. If I was just going with not one album per band, my top 2 picks for best power metal albums of all time would definitely both be Blind Guardian. It would be Somewhere Far Beyond and Imaginations from the Other Side. But which one am I going to put on this list? I'm going to edge it out and I'm going to go with Imaginations from the Other Side from 1995. Nothing against Somewhere Far Beyond. They're like right there, like 9.9 and 10 out of 10 each. They're both so solid. Could have gone either way, but I'll go with Imaginations from the Other Side for today. Here they started bringing in a little bit more like orchestrations and backing vocals and just kind of took it to the next level. And I feel like this is just an absolute masterpiece of an album with no weak moments. Every single song really hits the mark. And if you ask someone for the definition of power metal, say, go listen to this album. If you never heard power metal before, go check this out. That's a perfect example of a well-executed, amazing power metal album. Favorite songs on here: I'm Alive, A Past and Future Secret, shows you that you can throw some nice ballads on there too and still be fucking awesome. Bright Eyes, and The Story Ends. Every single song on here hits the mark. Really solid stuff. That's why it's in at number 1. And yeah, these were my favorite power metal albums of all time. Love to get your thoughts down below. Which bands are you surprised I didn't talk about? Give me some suggestions down below. Always like to get some conversations going and get some new recommendations. Hopefully you got some new bands to check out from this. And yeah, I would love to get some as well. So throw them at me. Love to hear that. And anyways, until next time, give me a like, give me a subscribe. Hammerheart Metal Reviews out.